class, welcome to lecture 25, and in this lecture, as well as the next lecture, we're going to be talking about some atmospheric chemistry concepts, and in this lecture we're going to be focusing on how those concepts relate to air pollution, and also take a look at some of the atmospheric factors that can contribute to air pollution, and also why exactly we care about certain gases or materials ending up in our atmosphere, why it's something that we are we concern ourselves about it. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So in this first segment, we're going to be doing sort of a basic chemistry review. Hopefully these concepts are something you've learned by taking General Chemistry 1 at some point in the past. And here we're just going to review some of those concepts because we're going to be using them going forward as we proceed through this lecture and the next lecture. So the first thing that I want to review is the idea of concentration, which is one way of expressing how much of one compound is present in some unit of volume. And there's three main metrics that are most widely used, one of which is molarity, where you basically count up how many particles of a particular chemical are present in some volume. So one of the examples I give here is 2 moles of argon per cubic meter of air. Again, a mole is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. So this is a lot of argon atoms from an objective standpoint, but there's already a lot of air in the atmosphere to begin with. But in this particular example, argon would be the solute, 2 moles of the solute. Argon would be the solute in this case, and then the volume of the solution would be the air that we're sampling. So per cubic meter of air, meaning if you were to on average take bits of air that were a cubic meter in volume, on average this would imply that you've got 2 moles of argon per those cubic meters of air that you're sampling in the atmosphere. So if you increase the numerator, then you end up with a higher concentration, and similarly if you increase the moles of the solute, you end up with a higher concentration, and if you keep the same number of moles of solute and decrease the volume, that would also give you a higher molarity or a higher concentration. And then another metric that's commonly used is the mole fraction, which is it's in its most fundamental form, it's defined as the moles of solute, similar to what we had over here, but instead of dividing by the volume of the solution, we divide by the moles of all other components in the volume that we're sampling. And you can also think of this as the ratio of how many molecules of solute there are to the total number of molecules in the atmosphere. So the example I give in this case, 290 parts per million of carbon dioxide, CO2, that tells us that there are 290 molecules of carbon dioxide per 1 million molecules of air. And sometimes this is also represented as a percentage. So there's about 21% of the atmosphere is composed in oxygen, meaning there's 21 molecules of oxygen per 100 molecules of air. And also nitrogen, which is around 70%. That would imply that you have, I believe it's 78% actually, 78 molecules of nitrogen per 100 molecules of air. So there's a lot of ways to represent a mole fraction, but basically it's just a percent composition. What percentage of your sample is composed of this particular compound? In this particular example I've shown up on the screen here, 290 parts per million of carbon dioxide implies that you have 290 molecules of carbon dioxide per 1 million molecules of air. And usually gases that have concentrations comparable to this are referred to as trace gases. And then finally, something that's not used as often, but it does show up in a few special areas, and that is the idea of molality, which is defined as the moles of solute, again, moles of solute in the numerator, how much of a particular compound that you have, divided by the mass of the solution that it's dissolved in. And in this case, in this example I've shown on the screen here, and a molality of 2 moles of table salt per kilogram of H2O or water. So in this case, table salt, sodium chloride, is the solute, 2 moles of sodium chloride per kilogram of our solvent, which in this example is water. And one of the reasons why I bring up molality is it actually is relevant to one specific weather-related idea, and that is the idea of putting salt on the roads in advance of some sort of winter weather event. And the reason why that works is because when you dissolve salt in water, you lower its freezing point. So if you don't treat the roads, then your water is going to freeze at around 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But if you treat the roads with salt, then your water, the freezing point of that mixture is going to be lower to say 30, 29, 28, or maybe even 27 degrees Fahrenheit. So it makes it less likely for you to accumulate ice on roadways that have been treated with a salt solution. And you can actually show that how much the freezing point drops is proportional to the molality of the solution. But molality is not nearly used as commonly as these other two. Mole fraction and molarity are the two most commonly used concentration metrics in the atmosphere, but a few specialized topics you can run into molality, and one of the specialized topics is the one I just mentioned, how you want to relate how much the freezing point of water decreases if you dissolve something in the water. And that's a look at concentration metrics, and sort of an extension of that is some definitions that we're going to look at. One of which is diffusion, which is a tendency for higher molecules to move from higher concentrations to lower concentrations. So this kind of goes back to one of the more elementary ideas that we introduced at the beginning of the class, how Mother Nature does not like imbalances. She wants to move stuff from higher values to lower values if at all possible. And diffusion is just sort of an extension of that. If you have a high concentration of molecules in one location and a low concentration of molecules somewhere else, then nature is going to try to move some of these molecules in the higher concentration towards the area that has the lower concentration. And this is important because if you've got a region in the atmosphere that has, for example, high pollution levels in a region that has low pollution levels, then the pollution is going to spread out. It's going to move from the higher values to the lower values to try to achieve some sort of balance or equilibrium. And another concept that is worth bringing up is the idea of polarity. And if we say that a molecule is polar, then we say that its net positive charge is not co-located with its net negative charge. And by far the most common molecule that we can work with that is in fact a polar molecule is water. It turns out that water is a polar molecule, and if you remember back to the geometric structure of a water molecule, the technical term for this is a bent structure, where you have an electron cloud down here, and then the hydrogen atoms are rendered at 120 degree. The hydrogen, the bonds with the oxygen and hydrogen are rendered at 120 degree angles. So this would be a 120 degree angle, 120, and then 120. And if you look at the electronegativity of hydrogen and oxygen, you can show that the net positive charge of this molecule is located somewhere around here, and the net negative charge of the molecule is located very close to the center of the oxygen atom. And because the net positive charge is not located in the same position in the molecule as the net negative charge, this results in a polar molecule, meaning one side of the molecule has a relatively high positive charge, and the other side of the molecule has a negative charge. And this is important because if you've got some other polar molecule in the atmosphere, whatever that might be, let's say it's even some sort of pollutant of some sort, if you've got a polar molecule, and you've also got to keep in mind that most of the, or pretty much like 3/4 of the entire Earth is covered in water. So if you're releasing a lot of pollutants in the atmosphere that are also polar molecules, it also turns out that polar molecules are more easily absorbed by water than nonpolar molecules. So if you're releasing a lot of pollutants in the atmosphere that also happen to be polar molecules, then there's a higher chance that they get absorbed or dissolved in some of the bodies of water that we have on the planet. So this is interesting thing about the atmosphere is it's actually kind of a blend of several different areas of science. Chemistry is a big factor to consider, physics, thermodynamics, you name it. It's just about, you could probably find it in the atmosphere somewhere, but it's kind of interesting how chemistry can actually be something very important to consider whenever you're working with the Earth's atmosphere. But that's going to do it for this first segment, sort of a brief chemistry review, and in the next segment we will actually start introducing some concepts related to atmospheric pollution. So with that, I will see you all in the next segment.